Please join us as we settle into our shared sacred space. Good morning. I am Beatriz Reyes-Foster, and I am pleased to welcome you to the University Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Orlando. I will be your service leader today. Greetings to everyone on Facebook and YouTube who is joining us online, and a special welcome to any visitors, whether virtual or in person. Please take a moment to silence your electronic devices wherever you are. Now is our time for committee moments. I ask any committee representatives with information to share to join us at the microphone. Are they all on vacation? I think I see a couple.
Hi, Lori Streel, Hospitality. Two things. One is, remember, the end of the summer potluck is next week. Start pulling up your recipes. We're looking for a wide variety of summer salads, savories, and sweets. And be prepared with them next weekend. I could use a few more helpers to break down the potluck. So there's a sign-up sheet under the coffee window if you'd like to do that. And also, if you want to be a barista, you've got the big opportunity late this month and early next, and we need some more snacks too. So please, the sign-up sheets are also there on the counter.
Thank you, Lori. I'm excited about potluck. So I'm Martha Kirby here on behalf of the board. There was an email that went out Friday evening about some changes that are coming up in our congregation. I hope most of you saw it. I would like to ask that we save any comments or questions or maybe joys and concerns on that till after service, and we'll be available to ask questions afterwards. If you didn't see the email, just pretend I didn't say anything, okay? Otherwise, we'll talk about it after service, so thank you.
Good morning, Kelly Buchanan on behalf of the Marketing Committee. I do have some wonderful news. We spoke to Paul Knight from First Church, who is their task force coordinator for the Pride Parade coming up in October the 15th, which is on the Saturday, and we've actually made an agreement that we're going to partner with First Church during the Pride Parade. We're super excited about that. Here's what we need, though. We need 25 individuals from this church to participate. In what capacity? I want to give you some options here. One is you can actually go down early on Saturday morning and help decorate the float. Okay, it's going to take 2 hours to decorate the float. You can help us with the booth. We have a booth now, and we've got our branded logo, and so we need enough people to cover 3 shifts. I think it's like 2-hour shifts, and then the next 2 people would come in, and so we've got some shifts to work the booth. And then we need people that can actually march behind the trailer, behind the float. And then after that, we'll have a big, nice party. How far? I reached out to Paul this morning, and I think that the march, just marching, is going to be less than a quarter of a mile. It's not very far because it's kind of a parade. So, yes, sir, Robert. It is October the 15th on Saturday. I will post more information in the notable news and also on our Facebook page to have people to sign up and to participate. This is big for us, okay, to get out into the community. So, if you're interested, please let me know. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Chloe McElroy. I am representing Millennial Group right now. Our next Millennial Group is going to take place on September 29th at 7 p.m. We are going to Pup Pub Orlando. It is a doggy bar downtown that just opened up. We welcome anyone who's 21 and up that identifies as a millennial or Gen Xer. That's why it's Millennial Plus. So yeah, 7 p.m., Pup Pub Orlando. If you need any more information, come find me.
Hi, Margie with membership. Next week we'll have our water communion or ceremony, however you want to refer to it, and welcome our new members. And for those of you who haven't been to a water communion before, Ideally, everyone should bring a little bit of water, something significant from their lives, water that means something to you. Some people bring water from a trip they've taken, from some waterfall or from the Pacific Ocean. Others take a quarter cup of water out of a doggy bowl on Park Avenue in Winter Park to show their support for dogs, or out of the retention pond behind your house where you love to watch the waterfowl. So remember your water next week along with whatever you're bringing for potluck, and it'll be a wonderful time. Thanks.
Thank you. My opening words are from Megan Weiser. We enter this sanctuary for kindness and comfort. May rough, worn hands and aching backs be healed. We enter this meeting house of hope for equality. May those who labor to survive live to know justice. We enter this meeting house of love and vocation. May our bonds of solidarity be strengthened. We enter this meeting house of courage and friendship. May we proceed hand in hand towards freedom. Our opening music is We Shall Not Be Moved.
Morning, y'all. The words are going to be up on the screen for you so you know what to sing. And this song originated during this song. Are we, Mike? We're muted.
Are we here now? Aha, okay. The words to the song will be up there on the screen, that thing over there. And we'd like you to sing along. We Shall Not Be Moved first appeared in American music along about 1865, roughly, and was part of the song sung by slaves. And then it was used throughout the early 20th century as part of the union movements. And so that's why we're using it this morning. And then was used again by the civil rights movement. So it's kind of an all-purpose song. I assume you will know it when you hear it. Please join us in singing, We Shall Not Be Moved.
Today's chalice lighter is Miles. He uses he, him pronouns. He is 4 years old, and he is excited about playing with his friends. All right. Let's recite the lighting of the chalice. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. And together we make our affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and love, and to help one another. At this time, let us take a moment to welcome any guests to the congregation. Recently, we called the Reverend Tracy Barrett to join us as a part-time minister. She is here about twice a month. And the rest of the month, we have various speakers from the community and from within the congregation. We encourage you to join us at least 3 times before you make up your mind about us. And welcome. We're very happy for everyone to be here today. Right, now is time for joys and concerns. It is a time we share those joys or concerns which impact us deeply, inspire us, or raise our spirits. We invite those who wish to speak to come up to the microphone.
Hi, I'm Lorraine Williams, and I'm representing Beth Kiefer with her permission. She's in the hospital again. She is improving, but there are lots of issues going on. I don't know if she's responding to phone calls and texts. She's hooked up to various things, whatever. But you could put a card in the mail for her, or you could go by the hospital to visit her if you would like to. If you want any more information on all this stuff, I know she is appreciating visits and, words of love and healing and all that. Okay? Altamont, Advent Health, Altamont.
Hello, everybody. David McElroy. 37 years ago on September 7th, and Marilyn's not here today, but anyway, we got married. And so 37 years marriage and 44 years together, so I think I finally got her trained.
Darn good thing she can hear you. Hi, Joey Cole. I just wanted to say I brought Remus to church this morning, and then got a text from him as he was in the back saying that his dad just tested positive for COVID, and his mom came to pick him up. So I just wanted you all to know that, or keep Scott in your thoughts and your prayers, please, because we're concerned about him, obviously, and also about the family. So thank you.
I hate it when that happens. So I'm Paula Despang, and I'm here to tell you that I have a joy that I've started being the person to schedule the service leaders. And everybody's being very cooperative, and it's wonderful. It's going like silk.
I love you, Mommy.
This is Miles. Hi, I'm Ender Walker. I am with the Bechtold family, usually, but today I gotta come to church with the Reyes Foster's family because I work at church, kinda, sorta.
So another wedding anniversary. Luke and I tomorrow will have made it a year. Yes.
it's a birthday. Melanie Irie is celebrating her birthday today with her husband John in Daytona with no kids or dogs, which makes it very fun. But they are online for service. So happy birthday, Melanie.
Another anniversary and birthday. 29 years ago today, my parents got married, so they're doing their anniversary trip to Tampa as they usually do. And then 29 years ago today, my best friend was born. So my best friend Isaac was born on the day my parents got married.
Let us take a brief moment of silence to honor the joys and concerns that remain unspoken. Right, now it is time for all ages with our Director of Religious Education, Judith Stein-Farrell, and Prince.
And my new buddy, who I couldn't leave at home today because he wouldn't stop barking. So you all get to meet him as a result. Good morning. It was, huh? It was just a choice. Just he made the choice. So this morning we have a speaker coming to talk to us today about is it about labor unions?
It's about worker rights and the union movement and more.
Worker rights and union movement and more. So I'm going to test y'all. If you were to think about our 7 principles, do you know which one this might apply to? All of them. Certainly all of them do apply in some way. Start with number 1. Thank you, Paula. Inherent worth and dignity of all people, and today all dogs. So I was looking at song lyrics over the weekend, and tell me if one of them got up, got out of bed, dragged a comb across my head. Yeah. Beatles, there we go. Working 9 to 5. Yeah, there we go. Take this job and
I wanted to sing that today, but
they wouldn't let you. What are these jobs all talking about? Stress. Us going out and doing the stuff. We don't always get respected for it. What would happen, first of all, when you get up and drag a comb across your head and then get on the train, that was the next one, and I can't think of the lines at the moment, but get on the train and go into work. What are you doing? Why are you going? You're earning a living. Yeah, but what kind of jobs are y'all doing? The good ones, hopefully. Who's worked behind the counter at a coffee shop or in a restaurant or in a store, right? Yep. Who am I when I walk up to that person? I'm a customer and I want you to give me what I want.
too bad.
And sometimes you can walk up to me and just hand me that cup of, and believe me, if you work at Starbucks or Zaza's or any of the coffee places in town, and you hand me a cup of coffee, you're going to see a big smile. So, and I appreciate you for doing your job, even if you're having a crappy day. I appreciate the work you're doing. If you are going into, if I'm going into paying the gas bill, what does it take for me to pay that gas bill? Why am I paying that gas bill? So I have gas. How do I get that gas? It's delivered to me. How's it getting delivered to me? Yeah, how to get to the pipes? Working people. Working. People driving, right? How are you getting to work? Filling the gas tank. Yep. Or plugging in. So, my point today for the kids, how about when you go to school, Miles? Are there teachers at school? Are there teachers at school? Yeah. They're doing work for our kids. And we appreciate them, and they're having a real hard time this year. Yeah. So my point today is that we're all interacting with the world, and if you happen to read the column I wrote in the RE News, you already know this. You're all doing something this week. You're all doing something right here. You're all doing something when you go out and get lunch later. You're all doing something with people. Everything you're doing right now was brought to you by somebody. Oh, wait, which principle is that, Ender? Seventh. There you go. There we go. So today, as we honor Labor Day Eve, Erev Labor Day in Hebrew, we are recognizing both our first and our seventh principles for sure. So that's your lesson for today. Thank you. All right, friends, come join me.
Now it's time for our interlude and offering. We are a generous congregation. Each month, we dedicate 40% of our plate offerings to a worthy organization. This month, we share our plate with Orlando Center for Justice.
I am betting that most of you don't know this song, Cotton Mill Girls. But I'd like to teach you the chorus before we go through the whole song, so you can sing the chorus every time we get to it. The chorus goes, it's a hard time, cotton mill girls, it's a hard time, cotton mill girls, hard time, cotton mill girls, hard time everywhere. Can you sing that much with me? It's a hard time, cotton mill girls, it's a hard time, cotton mill girls, hard time, cotton mill girls, it's a hard time everywhere. You are prepared, and I will wave at you when it's your turn, okay? You ready? Okay, give me that intro. I worked in the cotton mill all my life, and all I got was a borrowed knife. Hard time, cotton mill girls, it's a hard time everywhere. It's a hard time, cotton mill girls, hard time, cotton mill girls, hard time, cotton mill girls, it's a hard time everywhere. In 1916, I heard it said, move to
prerequisites evidently, but I thought we could leave that out.
Thank you. So we will now be singing Our Children Out. Do you all remember how the song goes? Love you and bless you and send you on your way. We love you and bless you today and every day. Thank you for indulging my 4-year-old. Our speaker today is Chris Furino. Chris uses they, them pronouns, and they are the lead membership organizer with Central Florida Jobs with Justice, where they've organized for the last 4 years. Originally from Pennsylvania, they moved to Central Florida in 2014 to do immigrant and farm worker justice organizing. Working with organizations like Hope Community Center and the Farm Worker Association of Florida, they saw firsthand how organizations strategizing and aligning together create significant impact, and that Central Florida Jobs with Justice was at the center of many big fights for justice in Central Florida. While organizing work isn't a traditional 9-to-5, in their spare time, they enjoy hiking with their dog, doing CrossFit and yoga, reading, and helping other white folk along with their anti-racist journey. Thank you for that. I am pleased to welcome Chris to a pulpit today.
Thanks, y'all. Good morning. I always get nervous before I speak to a large group of people. But like Beatrice said, my name is Chris Furino. My pronouns are they, them. I've been organizing in Central Florida for the last 8 years with various organizations, but my kind of political organizing home has been Central Florida Jobs with Justice since 2018. And even before that, I was really connected with this organization, and I'll talk a bit about who Central Florida Jobs with Justice is and how I was connected with them. But also want to share, if you are someone who's interested in getting involved in political work or activism or organizing, that Jobs with Justice can be a home for that. And I'll talk more about how that is in a minute. Let me see if I got the clicker right. Okay. So let me start with what is Central Florida Jobs with Justice. We're a nonprofit, community-based organization. How our organization works is that we're actually a coalition of organizations. So many organizations coming together with shared purpose. Our organization is made up of community groups, labor unions or worker centers, churches, religious groups, and also places of student organizing. Our coalition has existed in Central Florida since 2007 and was originally formed by organizations like ACORN and the Farm Worker Association, and I could name many more. And our organization has grown exponentially, especially in the past few years. Our organization is actually part of a broader national network of organizations of Jobs with Justices. There's about 30 Jobs with Justices throughout the United States, in New York, California, Colorado, Massachusetts, and they all work in this coalition model. And why we work in a coalition model is that we believe that bringing people and organizations together who maybe aren't typically working on the same issues or the same fights, bringing them together to work on shared fights actually grows the impact that can be had. It's a way of bringing more and more people into movement and into organizing. And it also just helps us learn from one another and be more strategic and just grow together. I'll share, I just want to share briefly a really exciting fight that our organization was part of last year, and that the win was really possible through organizing in a coalition. I'm not sure if folks were following through the news, but at Orlando International Airport last year, concession workers actually won a union, and they had a really tough fight. Their employer laid a lot of them off at the start of the pandemic, and then strategically and intentionally did not recall workers who were leaders in the union fight. And so what we did was bring together elected officials and other organizations to put pressure on the company that employed many of these concession workers in the airport, and sent delegations to speak with management, and really created a presence at the airport until those workers were brought back, and those workers actually won their union, which was really exciting. And why it's particularly exciting is that union wins in like the service and concession kind of industry is not very common. I'm going to talk a bit about how it's a really new phenomena. And so it speaks to the kind of moment that we're in and the ways that the service sector is becoming a sector that's employing more and more people, and that it's also a sector where workers are really being taken advantage of. So I'm going to give this isn't the Wikipedia page version, but this is my Wikipedia page version of the history of organized labor, because it can be it can be a little dull if it's not your if it's not your yum, or if it's not the thing you're really into. But when we talk about organized labor, we're talking about workers who have a union that represents them, have banded together, knowing that by working with their co-workers, they're actually a stronger force when it comes to issues with management or their boss, than if they were to approach those issues alone. The traditional kind of union and labor movement that we know of didn't really start to take big force until the early 20th century. We saw the labor movement particularly rising in workers who were in factories, manufacturing, and also skilled trades, namely workers who were basically developing our large cities, and as yes, yep, exactly, electrical workers, carpenters. And from that time up until the 1960s, workers in more and more sectors and industries saw that they could come together and form unions and collectively bargain for rights in their workplaces. And then we kind of come to the 1980s, and they're, through policies implemented at the federal level, and just general ideological and narrative framing, union sentiment took a really sharp decrease. I think Pew and Gallup studies found that up until the 60s, most people who were surveyed, about 80 or 70% of people were pro-union, and if were presented with the opportunity, would organize a union in their workplace. And that took a really sharp turn to 30% in the 80s. We also saw a lot of legislation that was passed at federal and state levels that made it more and more difficult for people to organize unions, advancing laws like right-to-work laws, which essentially mean that workers have to overtly, intentionally opt in for dues to being taken out of their paycheck. And it also kind of created more broad sweeping opportunities for employers to fire their employees at will. So I'm bringing us closer and closer to today. I think exacerbated by a global pandemic, but also that the kinds of sectors or industries that workers are engaging in has changed vastly in the last 20 years. We've actually seen that pro-union sentiment is at the highest it's been in decades. Recent studies have found that upwards of, again, 70% of workers would form a union if they were presented with the opportunity. And actually, union membership in the public and private sector is the highest it's been since the 1980s. Yep, I'm going to talk about Starbucks. And why that is particularly important is that we are seeing the kinds of work that people are doing changing vastly. With the hyper-development of tech and the tech industry, we are seeing more and more people engaging in types of labor that we were not engaging in 20 or 30 years ago. We've also created a society that has become more and more dependent on service professions, workers in the retail industry, the growth of companies like Amazon, and even our large big box stores like Target and Walmart. And the other thing I was going to share is that we are also transitioning to an economy that relies less on traditional work and more on people engaging in gig work, where they aren't working a traditional 9 to 5, but they're working jobs that are based on the amount of work that they produce. So think about workers who are delivering for Amazon or Uber, people who are delivering food service, things like that. And so that all matters because it's kind of creating an exciting and perfect storm for workers to be organizing and really fighting for their rights in the workplace, and also redefining in many ways what the workplace is. Because it isn't in many ways now a traditional brick and mortar shop. For some people, their workplace is their vehicle. For some place, their workplace is the distribution center where they're packaging the things that we're ordering on Amazon, right? Yep, many people now it's the kitchen table as well, and it's presenting us with challenges about how to reach workers, but also workers are kind of reaching a breaking point with the ways that they feel they've been taken advantage of. And so I'm going to talk a bit about some places where we're seeing really exciting union organizing happening, and some of it's even happening right here. So, like I said, Pew Gallup and other studies have found that pro-union sentiment is the highest it's been in decades. And we're particularly seeing that as workers in many companies are gaining national media attention as they're fighting for unions. How many folks have seen of workers in Amazon factories organizing unions? A few folks, right? So Amazon Labor Union just recently won a union in Staten Island of workers in a distribution center. They are also organizing a center in Albany, New York. And we are also seeing workers in Alabama, Raleigh, California, Maryland, New Jersey, and Chicago, all in both distribution centers and delivery drivers, fighting for respect and recognition and fairness in their workplace. As recently, we're seeing workers in Apple stores organizing unions. A store recently won a union in Towson, Maryland, and there's also organizing happening in New York and Atlanta. Folks are, I'm sure, have also heard a lot about Starbucks workers who I think were to the point that was shared earlier of people in customer service kind of receiving some of the brunt of frustrations over the past couple years. I think Starbucks workers in many ways have been kind of most recognizable for that. Since December of 2021, 318 Starbucks stores around the country have filed for union elections, and 220 of those stores have won. Only 46 have lost. I don't know if folks know, but one of the stores that won their union was here in Oviedo, which was really exciting. If I'll actually share that Starbucks Workers United, the union that represents Starbucks workers across the U.S., is actually doing an organized sip-in today. So if you feel like heading to the Oviedo Starbucks after the service today, you can go and show those workers that you're in solidarity with their union that they just won, which was very exciting, very exciting. And we're also seeing workers at Trader Joe's organizing unions. An independent union organized a store in Massachusetts, and we're also seeing stores being organized in Minneapolis and Boulder as well. Unions traditionally were organized for workers in the public and private sector, but like I said, the type of work that people are engaging in has changed really vastly. And so I'm just going to share a couple other places where we're seeing workers organizing and winning unions, which is really exciting. We're seeing workers organizing and winning unions in the cannabis industry. A lot of workers in media. Our local newspaper, The Sentinel, just won their union and are organizing a contract. Nonprofit organizations, as the nonprofit sector grows because the public sector is shrinking, more and more workers in nonprofits are organizing unions. We're seeing workers in museums, a lot of local coffee chains, bookstores, like I said, the tech industry, and even railway workers who have historically been organizing, but the number of railway workers who are organizing unions is the highest it's been in decades. So all of that is like a little bit of like, so what? And so what do we do at Central Florida Jobs with Justice about worker rights? So we're not an organization that is directly organizing workers into a union. But we will work with unions who are in the process of organizing workers to build broader community support and public sentiment, like I shared with the workers at the airport. We will also, like I said, leverage relationships that are maybe unconventional and bring them to support efforts that workers are engaging in. So for example, like we'll do a lot around workers at Disney who are currently negotiating a contract for higher wages and better working conditions. And so one of the things that we can do is bring community members, stakeholders, guests of Disney, whoever, to speak publicly about how they support the workers and the ways that they're fighting for their rights. We also are able to play a really unique kind of like perspective in getting people to think and take action about what are issues that are impacting workers that aren't just related to their ability to organize a union, but are directly impacting working people every day, are impacting people who are not in a union but are still workers, or are impacting people who, like I said, engage in gig work or other non-traditional work. And so I'm going to share a little bit about some of the work that Central Florida Jobs with Justice is currently doing, and share about ways that you can join us in that work if you're interested. So I'll start with, we are organizing people around issues related to healthcare. I'm not sure if folks are familiar, but Florida is one of, I think, 4 states without expanded Medicare, meaning that about 800,000 Floridians don't have access to health care because they don't have employer-provided health care, or they make too much to qualify for Medicare as it currently stands. And so, as the COVID pandemic, allegedly, according to some, comes to an end, we are anticipating that the federal public health emergency that was declared related to COVID will be ended, which means many people who received medical benefits because of that public health emergency are going to lose their medical benefits. About 1 million Floridians, for example, in the next year may lose the health care that they received because the public health emergency that was declared. And so we don't want Floridians or anybody without access to health care. And so one, we are trying to organize and connect with people who would be directly impacted by the ending of the public health emergency. We're also trying to organize and connect with individuals who are trans, who just 2 weeks ago, the state of Florida deemed that they could not receive healthcare services under Medicare that related to their transition. And we're also trying to organize and connect with people who would fall into that Medicaid coverage gap that I spoke about. We are leading up to an exciting ballot initiative where we want to close that Medicaid coverage gap through the will of the people. And so we're collecting petitions from individuals who want to support that effort. And we're also seeking for folks who would like to help us go to events, community gatherings, public spaces, to also collect petitions. We need a lot of petitions to just get that on the ballot. We do a lot of work around climate issues and the climate crisis. And the role and the way that we kind of approach that is that working people in many ways are the people who are most directly impacted by the climate crisis. So for example, in the state of Florida, the people who are feeling the brunt of the climate crisis the most are people who are doing manual labor, are people who are delivery drivers, are in the construction sector, are transit workers, especially our farm workers, especially because of how hot it is in Florida and how few regulations exist around access to sufficient break time, water, shade, things like that. Restrooms, yep. And so we have, with some of our partners, formed the Central Florida Climate Alliance, which is a group working on both passing local initiatives that directly impact workers, like initiatives around heat stress, but also local efforts that, how do I want to word this? For example, we're trying to connect with people right now who are what is deemed energy burden, and so that means that because of what their income is, they end up paying more % of their income towards their utility bills than people who make more money and they don't have access in our local government to programs that would lower their energy costs. A lot of times when people think about climate issues, many people's kind of first go-to is well, let's bring more people access to solar panels or other unconventional or green initiatives. But for folks who live in apartment complexes or don't have stable housing, those aren't solutions that are actually going to directly impact them. And so we really want to be proposing solutions that lower the amount that they're paying in their energy costs and also change the ways that they're most directly impacted by the crisis. We do work around education. So we have, in partnership with the local teachers union, local parents group, we do organizing to support the workers in Orange County Public Schools, teachers and support staff, but also to kind of challenge our public school system to be a system that is better and safer for students and teachers, but not reliant on police or more punitive forms of safety, but are proposing alternative forms of safety. And that also we are fighting for our district and our state to be paying teachers more to stop the ideological attacks on teachers that we're seeing. Yeah, and so much more. And then the last campaign I'll share about that is really exciting is that us and other organizations just were part of the push to get Orange County to send to the ballot in November a rent stabilization measure. And so if folks aren't familiar with that, what that would mean is that voters in the November election have the ability to decide if certain dwellings, apartment complexes, properties will have a 1-year cap on how much they can increase rent. I share that as a person who actually just had to move because my rent was increased by 40%. And there are many people who are taking advantage of the pandemic, the crisis that we're in right now, and many people who are moving to Florida because they can work from home and it's really luxurious to live in Florida, and who will be willing to pay more for their rent. What's happening then is pushing people out of our community. And so we'll be doing a lot of work to talk to voters in the next couple months about what this initiative means and why we really want to encourage folks to support it. It's not the long-term solution to this crisis. It is a temporary pause that will give our county and our community opportunities to explore and determine more long-term solutions. Okay, so all of that. So what can you do? We want to invite you to take action with us on any of those campaigns, on any of those issues. You can find us on Facebook. We also have online groups around all of those issues that you are welcome to be a part of if you connect with us through Facebook. So if you're really passionate about education, we have an education-oriented group that is made up of parents and community members who are talking about key issues that are coming up in Orange County Public Schools. Or if you're really passionate about climate, we have a Facebook group around our climate action. We also have Instagram. And if you're really interested in taking action in a larger way, if you either want to donate to our organization, you can help us with these causes, you can do that on our website. Or if you're I want to volunteer for helping y'all collect petitions for Medicaid expansion, or I really want to talk to voters about the rent stabilization measure. You can also sign up to do that through our website, and myself or one of our other organizers will follow up with you. I talked a lot about how we're made up of organizations, but Jobs with Justice can also be a political home for people who maybe don't have an organization that they're organizing through, but they still want to take action. We have individual membership where people, for $5 a month, are able to be members of Jobs with Justice, come to our membership meetings, help us strategize, think of how we want to move forward on these campaigns. And if you don't want to become a member and you just want to become an awesome volunteer, we welcome that as well. I think that's all I prepared. I think that is my last slide. Thank you all. Yeah, sure. I'm happy to take some questions.
Hello. I have a really basic question.
Yeah.
And I'll just confess that I've been a small business owner for over 30 years. And so I think what gets confusing for me is I totally agree with people who have such low income and have really difficult days. That needs to be changed. And I would say that one of my questions is, as a business owner, I have to work within a capitalist society and system. So there's certain pressures to try to make enough profit to make it even worthwhile doing. If it becomes where it's not profitable enough, all business owners will go do something else. So there's always that balance you're trying to find. But are you wishing that our society was more like socialistic and like quasi-capitalist socialist, which we are a little bit anyway with welfare and with Social Security and some things like that are similar concepts? And the struggle for us as small business owner was always, okay, how do you keep your employees, but how do you still make enough to make it worthwhile? So we have had cashiers in gas stations over 10 years. So that means they're happy there, generally speaking, but wasn't really the government or somebody telling us this is how you have to do it. And as far as the rent goes, we also own rental homes. We got kind of old for running the gas stations, so we went to rental homes. And the thing is, we pretty much always raise the rent between renters because we like to keep them a long time. But when you put on those rules that say X% increase, I don't know how this strategy has to change. If you saw the increases in property tax and insurance, those two things, we don't even look at maintaining the home when we do increases. We literally look at those two things, which are completely out of our hand. But I think I'm so torn because I agree that people are suffering. And how do you find that balance in what's generally a capitalist culture?
Yeah, thank you for that. So I think we're not necessarily advocating for like any particular economic system, be it socialist or capitalist. I think what we are working for is trying to create solutions that we think impact the people who are most marginalized or most directly feeling the brunt of whatever issue we're seeking to address. I think on the question of being like a small business owner or being a tenant, I want to say a lot of these initiatives that we are speaking in support of are typically actually not directed at small business owners or like, you know, folks who own a couple of properties and rent them out. Where we're seeing the most exploitation happening is in large corporations whose executives are taking home record profit in the pandemic while people are while people are struggling to like live, right, and get by. I think when we're talking about a rent stabilization measure like this one, we're not seeing it as a permanent solution and recognizing that like the cost of living has increased significantly. The way that this measure is written currently, it actually only impacts, I think, it's like a third of the units in Orange County, and many like small like families who are owning or our landlords are not going to be impacted. It's mostly like corporate owned complexes, who many of these complexes we saw were like, even though the like index was like up to about 10%, we're posting rent increases of up to like 30 and 40%. The way that the measure is written currently caps the how much the rent can be increased to match whatever inflation is. And so I think that's a way that the commission sought to meet both the reality of the rising costs and also try to like meet working people where they're at. I will say like our work really needs small business owners who have values like yours, or landlords who have values like yours to show and kind of both humanize you all and show that like there are people who stand on the side, like to stand with working people and also like employ them. And then the last thing I'll say is when we talk about like people forming unions, while wages are often a driving force, a lot of times it's working conditions that in many ways are non-economic. And so a lot of employees will say they're not as interested in forming unions if they're in a workplace that is like caring for them and making sure their needs are met and supporting them. And so I think, I'm not here to tell everyone like, oh, you should be pro-union or I want you to unionize. Like my parents are small business owners too. But I think ultimately too, as like employers or whatever, to be creating workplaces, which I imagine based on what you shared, having people who've been there for so long you do, that people want to stay at. I think that's really important. So thank you for that question.
I think we have time for one more.
Two things. During the last housing crisis, I live in a community of about 100 homes, and I worked with the Homeowners Association for some time. And a lot of the homes that were being foreclosed were bought up by companies looking just to rent them, not to take care of them. That I will say they do pay their HOA dues because they know they have to, but that's about it.
Yeah.
I mean, and they do not always screen for the people that are coming in, and we've had problems with that. So it's not usually somebody who owns one or two houses and rents them out. It's, again, larger companies and they jack up the rent like crazy.
Yeah.
I've seen it. But the other thing I just wanted to mention, it's not really a question, but, if you know that the Starbucks places are unionizing, it might be a good idea when you go into a Starbucks to ask them, are you unionized? If you're not, okay, I'm going to go to the one up the road, see if they are. I mean, if you want to be supportive, that's one of the ways to do it. Make sure you're looking and let them know you're looking for someplace that's unionized. I don't go into Wendy's anymore, but the one time I had to go into a Wendy's, and I said something about, I'm buying this, but I'm not happy about it because you guys aren't part of the Fair Food Program. And because of that, you go to Wendy's. And I let them know that. So that's important.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I'll just mention part of why the crisis is particularly exacerbated in Orange County right now is that corporations are buying en masse single-family homes in like record purchasing, and then to what you're saying are like really not necessarily taking care of them, but know that they have people who will come and rent them and they can pretty much name their price. And then the other thing I would say is. A lot of times workers maybe don't know their rights or they don't know that they can organize or they're afraid to. And so it seems like such a small little thing, but in stores that are in the process of organizing, going in and telling workers like, I support you, I stand with you, like can be a boost of confidence that many workers may need on the day, that day if they're having a particularly bad or rough day. Go to the Oviedo Starbucks, and I think there's a few more in Orange County that are in the process of organizing unions too. So, well, I appreciate y'all's time, and again, if you want to join us and take action, those are some ways that you can. Thank you.
As a former Starbucks barista, I will definitely be making my way over there today. It's very exciting to see. Thank you so much. We will now be extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our closing music is We Are a Gentle, Angry People.
Feel free not to sing. He hates this song. Everybody look.
Aww.
Okay. This was. That's a good look on you.
People. You'll notice is written by Holly Near. Raise your hand if you know who Holly Near is. Yeah, I know be people a little older than me and me. Yeah, exactly. Holly Near was one of the first openly gay women to insist on being taken seriously and not as a sideshow act, as both a musician and a human being. She was partnered to another woman who was very much like her, Meg Christian, and they traveled around the country together doing shows together. I saw them in 1985 in Ann Arbor, and they were quite wonderful together, and they're just great. Holly Near has a Facebook page. She's still singing. She's still writing songs for justice. And this song is one that is sung by a lot of gay choirs. A whole lot of gay choirs do this one, but it's useful for lots of things like union organizing. So this is We Are a Gentle, Angry People. And I should warn you that at one point he's going to drop out and you're going to be left on your own. I expect to hear you, even if you don't like the song. Okay. All right.
The labor movement was the principal force that transformed misery and despair into hope and progress. Martin Luther King, Jr. Thank you for joining us today. Please go in peace.